Tried to hold us back, to hold us, tried to hold us back.
We will be here forever. Do you understand? Forever.
Hey, it's Shan here. This week I speak with Felice, aka Sally Affleck. She joins me for an in-person conversation to share about her life so far. We recorded at her home in the eastern suburbs of Sydney on what was a balmy spring evening with the sound of crickets in the background, which I really like. It feels like summer. But I later discovered that sound is nearly impossible to edit out, but it slowly becomes ambient noise as you listen on. Sally discusses her early life growing up in the Northern Beaches area of Sydney, the challenges she faced as a child of divorce, finding solace and community in skateboarding, what it was like being the only girl at the skatepark for the first 4 years of her skating life, self-imposed pressure to prove herself to the boys, getting sponsored by Q-Day and Billabong, entering skate comps, being one of the first skate coaches in Australia with Mick Mulhall, meeting her non-skater husband, starting a family and balancing career, her love for all sports, specifically soccer, and much, much more. There was numerous requests for Sally to be on the show, and rightly so. She was brave enough to bust down the door for women's skateboarding in Australia and maybe even the world. So comparatively, if you fast forward to modern day skateboarding, I was at the Sydney leg of the Street League skateboarding competition this past weekend, and I got to witness Chloe Clavel take the win, and it was such a highlight of the day for me. In fact, the whole women's event was the highlight of the day for me. And you can't help to think that it's people like Sally Affleck who have paved the way for the generations to come. She's a rad human. I hope you enjoy it. And as always, a shout out to my kids, Clementine and Otis. Enjoy.
Destined to rock for eons, time doesn't exist. Shut those cataracts, capture the virtualist. Now, let's get back to what makes things seem forever, whether it's unseen, unheard, or 16 again. Not a bother, fill this old man river, kill a floor that gives all. Coming upstream, quiver, six style, easy rock, drop to the floor.
I was pretty attached to my last name, to be honest, pretty proud of it. It's my grandfather was Scottish. It's a Scottish last name. Yeah. It means field of flat stones, and it wasn't common. Like this is before Ben Affleck, right?
I was about to say, you're not related to Ben Affleck,
I wish. I used to joke around sometimes, say he's my cousin, but didn't invite me to the Academy Awards or whatever. Like, what's going on? No. But, I gave it away, and I didn't mind my husband's last name. It's Felice, which is actually Felice. It's Italian, which means happy. So I'm like, that's pretty cool.
Yeah, that's right.
Last name. And I'm like, it's pretty similar. It's got a lot of the same letters anyhow as Affleck. And I was like, and I didn't want to hyphenate my name. A lot of women were doing that a little bit back then. And I'm like, I don't want to elongate it. So I was like, one or the other. So I was like, no, I'll take it. But like the skateboarding industry knows me as Sally Affleck, of course.
I've just gone off on a weird tangent. To be honest, I've always been very confused about why women feel inclined to take the man's name when they get married. It's just pure tradition, isn't it?
Yeah, I guess it's just tradition, but I feel like a lot of women aren't doing it as much anymore. Like a lot of women are like, no, this is my identity. I'm proud of it. This is my family. I'm keeping it. I know that there's a lot of women doing that now, and I don't think the guys take offence or anything. It's just times are changing. I don't think my husband was like that either. Like he wasn't like, oh, you've got to take it or anything, but it was more me. I was like, is he going to like feel sad about that? Is he, like if I was a guy and my wife didn't want to take it, like would I be like, oh, like he doesn't want to, she doesn't want to take my name or whatever. So it was also like thinking of that sort of outside the box a bit and, but look, it's totally fine. But when I relate back to skateboarding, I just relate back to my maiden name. No one's like knowing who Sally Felice is.
Do you feel attached to your last name given the significance of it in Australian skateboarding?
Yeah, I mean, when I was in the mags and stuff, it was always like they used to plaster your name in big, bold characters across the page and then you'd get a bunch of questions and stuff. And look, I had a really close relationship with my dad as well, and it's his last name. And I never got to meet my grandfather, who was the guy who was Scottish, who held it and passed it all on to us. So there was that as well. But I suppose when you start getting a little bit of an identity, you sort of want you want to keep that because that's what people know you as. Otherwise, it's like, who the heck's that?
Yeah, it's true. You said on the phone today that you skateboarded for the first 4 years and didn't even see another girl skateboarding. Is that true?
Yeah, well, essentially, yes. I mean, I saw one girl who Mick, who you had on the podcast, knew, Mick Mulhall. Yeah, I think her name was Sue something. But as I mentioned to you, she was like flatland sort of skateboarding, like freestyle, like Rodney Mullen style kind of thing.
Yeah.
And I didn't really see her on the ramp. That was back in Manly. That's where I'm from. Mum bought a unit when I was about 11 in Queenscliff there, literally right across the road from that vert ramp. That was brand new. And it was pretty mental because I was like little skate rat, grew up in Lambie Heights, pretty bushy. We had a cul-de-sac, but I was just teaching myself. Had no idea what I was doing. I was initially bumboarding, then I got up on my feet and I was tic-tacking, knew nothing. Dad lived further up in the Northern Beaches. They separated when I was pretty young, like 4. So I went up there and I was in Avalon and I saw this kid jump a curb and I'm like, how did he do that? What's going on? Like he was like on the street. Now he's up on the footpath. You know, like I didn't have any idea. You know, this is like pre-watching videos and stuff. I realised later on it was an ollie. So, yeah, when I went to the skate park, I saw Sue. She was a little bit on the ramps, didn't see her. And then I was literally skating for, I reckon it was about 4 years. And then I saw a girl rock up and I think she was like the sister of a guy.
So just vert?
Just vert.
Is that what you were skating, just vert?
No, initially I went across and there was, I think Mick mentioned it, there was a blue fiberglass quarter pipe and then they put on the other side, I think it was masonry at the time, quarter pipe to finish off this dodgy mini ramp. So it was like, you know, fiberglass to rough asphalt to this, you know, crappy quarter on the other side, which was a little bit better because it had smooth wood. And then not long after they built the mini, which again was not much better, it was metal though, had a gnarly bump each end but on cement, and then another quarter which was a bit more even. So because the other blue one was like had a really sort of almost vert quarter and then down to a lower one. But that's what I initially learned on. Like I dropped in like on that, and then I was like the vert ramp's where it's at because this is like late 80s, like all the guys are up on the ramp, man. And I'm like, oh, that's awesome. But I was starting from the bottom. I didn't know what I was doing. So I learnt to pump, learnt to kick turn. And then I got to a point where I was like pretty much like backside grinding and stuff. And there was a roll in. I'm like, oh, I've got to do that next. So the guys are like, you've got to roll in. And I'm like, yeah, that's cool. So I pretty much did that without too much balking. I don't know, took a little while, did it. Then, you know, you do it holding onto the edges and like almost a coping. And then you do it sort of standing up from holding the back rail. And then the boys like, you got to drop in. I remember one day it was Jamie Fletcher, you know the Fletchers, so Jeff, Jamie, Daryl, yeah. And he was a gnarly guy.
Originally from Newcastle.
I think they were. And they were all like Jeff, I think, still skates. Jamie got a massive injury. He crashed in a car bombing Darley Road, Manly, and lost his way a bit, I believe. And I don't know what happened to Daryl. He was awesome. He was just a funny guy. And they were all awesome. They were all good to me. But Jamie had that gnarliness, that sort of ruggedness. But it was like your big brother, like hassling you. And it was sort of what I needed. And I remember one day I rocked up, right? And, like, we weren't, you know, well off or anything. And I had a good pair of shoes that I took off. Obviously, weren't skating in them. They were like my pride and joys, you know. I wasn't skating in them. My other ones were gnarly, crappy ones that all, like, you know, wrecked from knee sliding and all that sort of stuff. And then I put the other ones in my bag or whatever or on the bench. And then Jamie's like, drop in, because he knew I was ready. And I knew I was ready, but I was just like, far out. How do you do that? How do you go from standing to fully leaning into this ramp that's got vert on it and go with it? And then he's like, right, you're going to drop in today. And he grabs my good ones, and drops in, puts it on the other side of the ramp where you can't get up because there's only a ladder on one side. Anyhow, that day I didn't, and he was nice enough. He ended up giving them back to me because I was like, oh, so much pressure. But then I went back, I think it was the very next day, early. No one was around. And I'm like, I'm doing it under my own grounds, you know. I'm just like, and I knew I had to do it. It was well overdue. And I did it. And I was so stoked. And
By yourself?
There was a couple of randos there. I don't know who they were, like not the crew, but there was hardly anyone there. So if I did get concussed, hopefully someone will pick me up off the ground. But
Because that was a gnarly vert ramp. Mick Mulhall
Yeah.
says that the transitions were put on upside down.
yeah, I've heard him say that before. I think he's right, but I never understood that because I always thought they were like on a circle, but yeah, I don't know, something about elliptical shape or something.
I'm not smart enough to understand that.
I mean, neither. So I was like, okay. So I was used to the whip. It had a whip to it. Like you get used to the whip. Everyone's like, this place is whippy. I'm like, I don't know. Like this is what I'm used to. This is what I grew up on. But yeah, anyhow. So then I dropped in on that day, and there was, like I said, a couple of random guys, and it was all good. And then I think Jamie came either that afternoon or whatever, because pretty much Arvo skates were on. And he's like, drop in, and I'm like. And he thought I was just going to book, because I was still like, I had only done it a few times. I just sort of took my time, put my board over and stuff. And I did it, and he was super stoked. So it was good.
Wow. That moment of when you got your tail over the edge of a vert ramp and then you put your front foot on and you make that decision to press down
Yeah.
and commit, it's, in my opinion, such a metaphor for life and translates into so many other areas of your life.
Yeah.
Yeah, like you know what it's like to overcome a fear. Because it is the first time you do it, it's like a trust activity. It's like because you can't see part of the ramp because of the vert.
Yeah.
You know?
It's all science, right?
Yeah.
So, yeah, but you don't get it. Like it's because it's not a half-hearted thing. You got to fully commit or you don't. I've seen so many people whip out over the years, not just on vert ramps, even minis. Yeah. Because they go to do it and then halfway through it, they've just gone, and they lean back and then whack on their butt. Yeah.
Or and it's always hesitation that causes the injury.
Yeah.
Yeah. I remember seeing a guy in Nowra dropped in on the vert ramp, and he was a Filipino exchange student. His name was Jeff Balamos.
Yeah.
Same thing, hesitated at the last minute, but then fell on his face, knocked his 2 front teeth out, and I'll never forget it. And he was so gnarly, and we're just like, no way. And he knocked him out from the roots because of the impact.
Oh, my God.
And he was like, oh, my God, I have to pay for this. And he grabbed his teeth and just shoved them back up in the gums.
Yeah.
And turns out
that was the right thing to do.
They reconnected and he saved his teeth.
Brilliant.
But who can do that?
Man, it's like that guy, 127 hours, he cuts his arm off. It's like one of those things.
Maybe he's gnarly too.
That's full on. Yeah.
I don't know if I could do that.
No, I definitely could not. Just die and perish.
So you were captivated by seeing someone jump up a gutter.
Yeah, that's how it started. It's. I didn't know what it was. Again, like it's all physics, I suppose, but I didn't know what happened. I just remember watching this guy, and he was on the road, and he just was heading for the curb. I'm like, what's he doing? He's going to smash into the curb. Like I'm talking. I'm like, I don't know. I'm 10 maybe, and then he hopped up, and I just kind of thought he kind of like hopped the front up and lifted, but I knew it was like a jump. Like it was too quick, and there was a pop. And I was like, what is that? And like I said, like I had my old bloody reflex skateboard, which was, top notch back then, apart from maybe the Aussies, And, it was my second one. I had my first one stolen because I'd left it out the front yard and all that sort of stuff. So I was like, I wasn't losing this one. And this dude's doing this. And I'm like, and like I said, I'd grown up in a Lambie, and so going to Avalon was probably a bit more progressive surf culture, and there was probably more guys out there. And and I saw him do that, and I was like, wow, that's cool. But like I was the full tomboy, so I was into bikes, skateboards, whatever. Like
they say that those early years of your life from 0 to 10 are the most developmental, and it's where you have your first recall. It's where some of the experiences you have can shape you for the rest of your life. How would you reflect on the first 10 years of your life in regards to your family life?
Yeah, look, it was pretty volatile. Like my early memories, we grew up, as I said, in a Lambie Heights.
For those that don't know, describe that suburb.
Yeah, so it was a new suburb, sort of around the mid-70s. There's a lot of new homes built. It was pretty bushy apart from that. My parents bought a lot, and they built our family home. So they were actually from this area, Maroubra area. Well, Dad was. Dad was born and bred over here, funnily enough, and I was born and bred in Northern Beaches. So it's full circle. So we moved over there. Like I wasn't alive. My sister was born in this area, and in one of the city hospitals. And then I was born into this family home that they'd built, and it overlooked the Brookvale TAFE and sort of in the distance as well, the Ringa Mall. But essentially we had bush in front of us, bush behind us. And, we were catching tadpoles, had a great life, skipping, stuck in the mud, bloody hide and seeks in everyone's houses.
Outdoors a lot.
Outdoors the whole time, like literally from like as soon as we woke up and were ready till street lights.
Didn't have like a Sega Master System?
I remember
or a Nintendo?
I had this thing called a Vectrex, which was a weird little thing that had its own telly, and it was rando sort of thing. But, yeah, it was very Galactica.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, but we didn't have much of that, and that was nighttime or before we were allowed to go out. So it was all day out, street lights on, come back. So we were out with all the kids. There was all families, and we were out with them, and we used to do everything, like I said, hopscotch and skipping, and we were all playing together. And there was the Byala Hostel, which is for the Indigenous Aboriginals from the country that the young girls came and learnt, and they actually ended up going to, which was my high school later on, Mackellar Girls. And look, it was good. But then my parents separated when I was 4, which was a big deal. I don't remember it well. I just remember the family life before it. We used to go on family holidays and Surfers Paradise and had great times. But, yeah, my mum said I was obviously, where's Dad kind of thing. Didn't understand it. Very, very close to Dad. Like, Dad would get up and he'd say, what's happening today? I said, well, I don't know what's happening, Dad. What are we wearing? And Dad would say, I'm wearing shorts and T-shirt. I'd go, yeah, me too. I'm wearing shorts. Just his little shadow. So that was hard. And then we stayed in the family home. Dad wanted us to stay there with Mum as long as we could, like to get through primary school, because we were at Lambie Heights Public School up the top of the hill. So he wanted us to have stable time, and pretty much that happened. And then they sold the family home, went their own ways financially. Mum bought a unit down at Queenscliff, which I just spoke of, which was literally across the road from the ramp, so it worked out well for me. But, yeah, no, life was hard. Mum...
Was your dad in your life a lot, though, post-separation?
Yeah, he was. So I'd see him initially it was every weekend, and then Mum's like, I want a weekend. So it was every second weekend. He was probably my biggest supporter, biggest advocate in skateboarding and sport in life. Very good dad. But there was a lot of tumultuous times at home with Mum, and Mum didn't let him in a lot, like as in what was going on. And she was very private. It was a bad breakup. She didn't deal with it well. And pretty much a lot of alcoholism came out of that, especially like my mum spiralled out, and later on other family members. And she just made some bad choices with partners and let them move into the family home and stuff, which is not cool, which you wouldn't do these days. You wouldn't sort of let your kids be exposed to, someone unless you really knew what they're all about. So, there was a lot of arguments and fights, and, my sister didn't get on with some of the partners too, and same as me, and they were screaming and having, verbal abuse and sometimes physical. So I had to step in and...
You're the youngest?
Yeah. Yeah, well, so my mum was married before my dad and had a couple of kids in England, and because she's English. And then my parents separated, and then there's my sister who's nearly 5 years older than me. Then there was me, and then when my dad remarried, he had 2 boys. So there's 2 boys younger than me with my stepmom. And so essentially it was just like my sister and I and my mum. But, yeah, like my sister, she didn't cope with it well either. With me, I had my outlets. I had skateboarding. I had my sports. I was out of the house a lot, so it saved me. But I think it affected her a bit worse. And I did martial arts as well, so I was pretty physically capable and had the mental capacity to deal with it. Didn't worry me. So I'd step in and save Mum on occasions with things as well. So, yeah, it was a bit gnarly.
In regards to domestic violence situations?
Yeah, there was one time earlier on when I was still at a Lambie where my mum's boyfriend at the time was in the house, and my dad was a bit lippy to him. He probably shouldn't have. He was a 6'2" ice hockey player, and he's like, get out of my house. And he's like, it's your house, but not really. I'm welcome here by your ex-wife kind of thing. I remember it. I was 10 or something. And then my dad pushed him, which was a bit dumb. And the boyfriend just clocked my dad in front of me. And my dad's just gone down like a tree. And Dad was over 6 foot himself, but not like this guy. Mm. And I've just stepped in as I loved them both at that point, but I was like, just don't touch my dad, and it's just weird. And just other things too, like later on when we were in Queenscliff, she had another boyfriend who's like drinker, and they were both drinking. And I remember he was like going to throw a plate at my mum. I think he did. I think he let it go and it went out the bloody kitchen window, but I just stepped in. And my sister, even though she's older and she was taller and much physically bigger, like she could do it when she wanted. When push comes to shove, but like often I was like just the first one there. It was just a reaction for me because of the martial arts, I think.
What kind of martial arts?
I did Wing Chun Kung Fu.
Yes.
Which I think Peanut might have talked about.
Yeah.
He's into it now, and he actually rocked up at our academy in Manly one day. Didn't know I did it, and my instructor pulls me over to do a demo, and there's like these skateboard boys. I'm like, well, I know them.
Go and bash Peanut.
Yeah. Not at all. But he obviously loved it. It's from China, and it was from a Buddhist nun. And it's kind of resonates with me too, because girl in a man's world. It was a Buddhist nun. She was a female fighter, top fighter in China apparently, and she could never beat the other top fighters because they were male and they were just physically stronger and bigger. So Wing Chun was based upon, again, physics, and instead of blocking, you deflect and you shear. So you utilise their own body weight against them, and you don't fight it, you go with it. And you use your own body weight against them. So it works really well for everyone, but obviously women as well, who generally are smaller.
Yeah, traditionally don't possess the same level of physical strength, maybe biologically.
Yeah.
How would you say your relationship with your mum evolved into your adult years?
Oh, look, I haven't really held grudges like some of my siblings have. But like I said, I had outlets and I probably avoided a bit of it, not being in the home because I was out skateboarding and I had my thing. Whereas like I'm sort of estranged from my sister, unfortunately, now because she's just not dealt with it really well at all, and she's got a lot of anger there amongst the family. And, yeah, and I think she was just there more to witness and see stuff. But I kind of feel like no one does stuff on purpose. Like, Dad's made mistakes too. Mum has too. Neither of them are perfect, right? And we're all trying to do our best. So what do you want to do? Just nail people down and crucify them and for the rest of your life? Like, that's just going to eat you up. That's just going to make you sad. And I don't want to be sad. Like, I had a shit upbringing. Like, I'm not going to, put rainbows and unicorns in there. It wasn't really like that. But neither of them did it on purpose. They thought they were doing the best. And I honestly think that they were trying to do the best, but they weren't in a good place either, especially like Mum. So,
you're a parent yourself now.
Yeah.
Has that had a big impact on how you've approached parenting those early days?
Oh, yeah, for sure.
What do you do differently?
Oh, I actually elect to work 4 days a week rather than 5 days. And always have I initially did 3 when I went back part-time. I had my daughter. I went back 3 days, but then very quickly was having my son. They're less than 2 years apart, so I was like back not even a year, and then I had to be off again. And then I went still back for 3 days, and then I bumped it up to it was sort of a 4th school day, like a shorter day. And then I did 4 full days, and then I'm like, and then people are like, you're going back to 5? I'm like, no, because for me, like my mum worked her fucking ass, excuse the French.
Everything's been said on here. Yeah. Everything.
She worked her butt off to have food on the table for us. And she worked at Myer and a lot of other retail places before that. And she would go without her own lunch sometimes, or like no lunch for her because she'd give us money for school or whatever for lunch. Wow. Yeah. So look, no one's doing these things on purpose, and she didn't have a good upbringing. I know what she went through as well. And she didn't have the best role models either. Like her and her brother were separated when they were young children. The father took her brother and her mother took her. Like unheard of stuff. You wouldn't do that these days.
Separating the siblings.
Separating the siblings. Like you'd normally share them and go from one house to the next, similar to what I had. So, and they were quite poor, and at one point Mum said, like we were sharing a bed and all that in England, and she was born sort of like war period in England, like, getting bombed and there's sirens, and all that hectic stuff. And she like I said, she was married before my dad and had some, not great start. Like she was married at 19. So
You know how many people hold resentments towards their parents their whole life?
Mm.
And it's taken me to become a parent myself to realise how hard it really is. Like being a parent is really challenging. There's no two ways about it.
Oh, 100%.
Yeah, and it does give you more empathy for your own parents. And that's what seems like you've got now.
Yeah, look, it does. I just wanted to be there for them more because my mum couldn't. Like, she was working. And, yeah, and you just try to do your best. They don't come with a rule book. So, you go to the pet shop and they question you hard about, I got 2 dogs which you saw, like about what kind of dog parent you're going to be. But anyone can have a baby, get pregnant and have a child and go home with it and be left with it alone.
Yeah. And also I think a lot of people don't take the time to educate themselves on how to be a better parent. And it's the most important thing you can do. So my friend was actually giving me some advice on it and he listens to a podcast about how to be a better dad. So I've started listening to it. It's like, it's right. It's called the Dad Edge podcast. If you're out there, go and listen to it. And it gives you strategies on how to, manage different phases of your child's development and identifying different behaviours. And it's true. Like most people don't take the time to do that. Read some books about child development. And the little things can make such a big difference.
100%. Like when the kids were like little babies, we bought all the baby books out trying to get them in routines and sleep, and eating and diet and getting them to sleep through. And it started there. And then as they get older, it's just like trying to figure out when they're going to get, the boys are going to get the testosterone shots and boosts. And you're like, oh, they're 4. Oh, yeah, they get 7 times right now. And you're like, oh, geez, okay. And that kind of thing. And, and then like my kids are teenagers now and they've been good kids and they still are good kids. They just come with, it's mental health struggles now and one of my kids is on the spectrum and all that sort of stuff. And again, like you said, you educate yourself. You go buy books. You figure out what's going on. You don't just Google everything. You can do that and there's a lot of stuff online that is good, but, try to grab some good books from people that are either, got things themselves or doctors or whatever.
So tumultuous at home. So where I find you very interesting, I remember you skateboarding back in the day. You wouldn't have remembered me, but I remember you because you were literally the only female skater I'd actually seen who was ripping and actually like in what was and still is quite a male-dominated activity. So do you kind of feel like the stuff that was happening at home built a certain level of resilience when you're at the only female at a male skate park?
Yeah, it's pretty gnarly. Like I'm not usually a huge one to reflect, but I've had some time to reflect now, and especially like I said, you have kids and try to figure things out. I'd say so, yeah. I'd say so for sure. Like I said, I was a tomboy, but I became a tough kid. Like I was like a tough chick. Like my exterior was a bit like, tough. Like, and I had to be because I also had to prove myself to the boys because there were no girls, as you said, and the only comparison I could make was against the boys, and they didn't want me there. Like, let's just get this straight.
Was that the feeling you got?
Initially.
Okay, well, tell us what made that obvious then that they didn't want you there. What kind of things were happening to make you feel that way?
Look, it was a smaller minority. It was probably your 10%ers, your 1 in 10 guy. They would be saying derogatory comments about female parts.
Okay.
And jokes like that. I'm not going to be naming names because some of these guys are pretty well-known guys in sort of that manly 80s, 90s area. And I'm sure they're pretty regretting what they did too. But it was pretty a bit of misogyny going on. And I was in their territory and I got that too. Like if I was a guy, again, reflecting back, would I have wanted some rando chick rocking up and taking our territory? This is boys' zone, right? That's how it was though, like different times. And I know it's not like that now, but so, yeah, there was a few comments and jokes and, grab a skateboard and run around and throw it under the ramp. And, one guy did that and it was my first pro model. I remember it was my Gregor Rankin. It was a Santa Cruz Gregor Rankin. Loved it. Loved the art. It had a awesome like a gremlin kind of character on it. It was like white painted, massive, cool character. And it was, like I said, my first pro board, like I'd gone from the old Reflex to a nice setup. And it was a big deal because, like I said, we didn't come from money. Mm-hmm. And this kid grabbed it, who I know well, and I forgive him for it now, and he wouldn't have meant it, and he'd probably reflect back on it too. But he was quite well-to-do, his family, and he'd have a board every 2-3 months, right? This was my board that needed to last me till next Christmas,
Gotcha.
kind of thing, or my birthday.
Yeah.
And a massive chip happened, and it was just not cool. And then Mum's boyfriend, who was the full-on guy, come over and found out who it was and grabbed his board and literally said, who is it? And I had to point him out. I had no choice. I had to point him out. He's like, give me your board. So he handed his board over. And like I said, he was a tough man, a hockey player.
Yeah.
He grabbed the board and it was like 2 bangs on the fence and it snapped in half.
Yeah, right.
And I was like, oh, my God. Like,
Yeah.
I'm in the shit now. Obviously wasn't popular after that, not just with him but a bunch of the guys. Mm-hmm. Like I said, I don't think he'd even – like he's probably got the shits with me too that happened to him, but also like he's probably – I don't know, wouldn't be proud, I don't think, of what he did either. But, look, it wasn't cool and there was just snark remarks and stuff and no one was giving me any special favours.
Yeah. I don't know. I was at the skate park yesterday and I don't know, I was thinking about how much the culture has changed. There's so much more acceptance. You were skateboarding because you purely just loved skateboarding, right?
For sure.
Not to prove yourself.
No, I was addicted to it.
Well, who were you trying to? Well, who do you think you're mainly trying to prove? If you had to prove yourself, who do you think you were trying to do it to? Yourself or other people?
I don't know. Like I wanted to prove it to myself.
Okay.
I wasn't trying to prove. Like I did have to prove myself to boys, but I didn't give a crap. But I knew I had to. But it was more like as well, like making my family proud as well, making like especially my dad proud because he was like a bit of a sportsman himself when he grew up. Like, you know, he reckons he was a bra boy before the bra boys. So he said we were in the longboard.
What did he surf?
Yeah, he surfed. And he said we were out in the massive Malibu surfboards without leg ropes back in the day. So he goes, you know, if you fell off a wave, you were swimming a long while to get back in to get your board and go back out. So, yeah, he was like that and he was a good rugby player and that. And so I was a sporty kid and massively obsessive and, yeah, probably on the spectrum myself, probably got ADHD and just loved sport. Sport was my thing. I could do sport.
So you play team sports as well?
Yeah, I do.
Well, did you back then?
I did in high school. I signed up for the hockey team. I had no clue what it was, regular field hockey. I didn't know what it was about. And I signed up to that and loved it.
Did you?
Loved it.
You still play?
No, I played for a few years after school in a women's comp up. I think I played for Seaforth it was.
Yeah, right.
Played North Shore up in Turramurra and stuff with some of my ex-school friends. Not ex, my school friends at the time. And, and I played on a soccer team for school, but again had no training in it. But it was just for a year or two. They had a knockout comp.
Right.
And you would just go in it once a year. You just had to qualify for it and then it was like you'd play other schools and get knocked out. Like you'd lose. Once you lost, you're out. And it was literally the first game, half the state's out.
Oh, yeah, okay.
And then just kept going. And we did well and we'd get up against the country kids who'd end up kicking our butts.
Were you a good student at school, you reckon?
No,
just wanted to play sport and do
activity. Not naughty. Tried to focus, couldn't really focus, didn't find some things natural. So it was. I had to put effort in, and I felt like I didn't hit my straps till after school when I found what I really loved and what I really liked, and then I hyper focused on that, and then I did well at that.
In terms of academia,
yeah.
What was it then? What did you find after school that sort of lit you up that way?
So Dad was an engineer. He was a fire protection engineer, which is what I am now.
Right. And what is that exactly? Explain it to us.
Okay, so we design fire systems for buildings based upon the Building Code of Australia and what's required in that building. So depending on the site, the classification of the building, the type basically, and the size and the height and blah, 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 depends upon what fire systems you put in a building. So high rises and stuff over 25 metres, you've got sprinklers and detection alarm systems and stuff like that. And then you have other special requirements in other buildings, like where you might need gas suppression and water mist, and there's some pretty cool fire systems you can get out of. It's like super interesting. So
I can imagine.
Then I became good. Like I initially started as a drafty and then worked my way through and up into fire protection and engineering, and now I've sort of lead a group of, I think I've got 4 under me now. Yeah. And it, like in a cool little firm, we're in World Square consultants, so we working more directly with usually clients or the builder and stuff. And
so you're in the city CBD.
Yeah,
you're working.
Yeah,
like a corporate type vibe.
Yeah, it's pretty hard to imagine.
You have to wear a suit and dress up and stuff.
Yeah, especially back in the day. I still try to.
Like a power suit.
Yeah, I don't mind wearing a suit, because it makes you feel good, makes you feel more professional. I think COVID, people got a bit lax now, and I can work at home as well. It's a bit of a hybrid setup, so
that's good.
Sort of half kind of thing.
Wow,
so it's good.
Yeah, with the skateboarding, you said you sort of found it around 10 years of age, and it was predominantly all you had access to was a vert ramp and a shitty quarter pipe. You said. So at what stage did it you start to go to the next level with it where you're like, hey, I'm actually pretty good at this?
Yeah.
When did you have those light bulb moments and then just become obsessed?
I was always one where I didn't want to approach sponsors. I wanted them to approach me because, again, it came down to my mentality. I wanted to prove myself on my own merit.
Yeah.
I didn't want to be one of those kids sending in the videos and da-da-da. So I don't know, pretty early on I remember Manly Skateboards, just gave me some T-shirts and flow and maybe a bit of a discount, which is where Skater HQ ended up, sort of under that building off Manly Beach. And then got a few shop sponsors. I think it was next Aloha Surf again down at Manly, and then later on Wick Surf at Collaroy, and I don't know, and then I started, I'd skate with the guys.
Well, they wanted to sponsor you.
Yeah,
they were reaching out to you?
Yeah, it was always word of mouth. So it might be the boys got sponsored and one of the 2095 boys, one of the Manly boys like Billy or,
is that the
Billy.
postcode?
Yeah, that's the one. So it was, I don't know, it was just word of mouth. It'd be like, oh, so-and-so's heard about you, go in,
Cool.
You're like, okay. And then I remember there was a skate shop down North Stain, heading into Manly, and it was a skater sort of guy, and the guys were all in the shop, and they come back, they go, oh, they want to know about you. And that was called SUP, what's up, S apostrophe up.
Yeah.
And then I was like, okay, cool. And then they were again doing similar stuff. And then they got me Q-Day, they got me the sponsorship with the Bardys.
Barty family, yeah.
Yeah. So they were like, oh, you've got to ring them. We've told them about you. And no, they rang the shop and said, we've heard about this girl, Sally, down there. Do you know her? And they're like, oh, yeah, she comes in from time to time. And it was pre-mobiles and stuff. And they'd had to wait till I came in again. And it might have been a couple of weeks. And, and then I went in, and then they're like, oh, we've got this number you got to ring. It was Dave, the dad, initially, Chad and Jamie's dad. And ring him and da-da-da. And then far out, next thing you know, they're sending me full-on setups,
Packages.
Packages, get a deck every month or something, or, a full setup every 2 months.
And it was just based on word of mouth, Sally's ripping, or was it because you were skating in comps as well?
Well, I think initially I heard it was, oh, this chick's ripping, or they'd heard I was ripping, and then, but they knew I was doing comps because I didn't have to have I had no incentives then. It wasn't like I was getting bonuses for winning a comp from my sponsors. It was just back then you pretty much did comps. Everyone just did comps. That was how you got better and how the sponsors figured out you're around. Yeah. So I had to skate against the guys, and that I think made me lift.
That's so interesting. So around that stage, who were some female skaters that you were actually impressed or influenced by, whether they lived in America or Australia? Can you remember any from back then?
Yeah, so there was obviously the Americans were ripping. So there was Jamie Ray's, who I loved.
Okay.
And then there was Alyssa Steamer later on, who bloody ripped. And then there was, what's her name, Cara Beth, is it?
Cara Beth Burnside?
Yeah, she's nuts, and she's an awesome snowboarder.
Yeah. As
well, and she was hardcore. And then there's been a few since and after, like Mim Coop and Noop, is it, I think, and a few others. But then as girls started coming online, I started becoming friends with a few girls, but it was more interstate because there was hardly any around. So initially I think one of my first friends was Alyssa Say from Wollongong.
Oh, yeah. No way.
Yeah.
Is she related to Shane Say?
Probably.
Yeah.
So Alicia Say, yeah.
Yes.
Yeah.
That's a name I haven't heard in a while.
Alicia Say. And then there was Hilary Pearce down in Melbourne. She ripped for a while there. She was awesome. Great style. And then there was Verge. Maddie.
Oh, yeah. Virginia Maddox?
Yeah, from Bondi. Who else? And then later on Monica Shaw and Esther Goodoi down in Melbourne, and then there was another girl down there, another Sally Clark. She was a good street skater.
Yeah.
So then there was a bunch of us because that came a bit later. That was when all the Gallus street contests came, the Globe contest, and then eventually the World Cup contest that ended up at Rod Laver, which we ended up entering and then skating.
Did you skate in that?
Yeah. Yeah, against all the girls from America. So that was interesting because, that was their bread and butter. That was their jobs. Like they didn't have to work. They could just skate. Luckily, America's, ahead of the rest, and that's the opportunities they had. But I had to balance my work, which I was just talking about, and studies as well as
Did you go to uni? You went to uni for that? Or is it
I did college and stuff because back then there wasn't a uni degree.
It's like an apprenticeship type college.
Yeah, so initially it was like apprenticeship and drafting and then college.
Gotcha.
And you can do degrees now, and there's also accreditations and other things as well.
Do you do like internships and stuff building up to, or is that what a draft person does? Like when you're learning off other designers?
Yeah, that's right. Yeah,
like
it's like a trade, or it's not really a trade, but like an apprenticeship, I suppose. Yeah.
So you were doing that even?
Yeah, so I did about 5 years of study, and so I was sort of doing that, and I was holding down that job and trying to be professional, wearing my suit, and
then skating
and then skating in the evening and skating weekends, skating every moment I could, and they were like I remember we skated. I think was Alyssa in some of those, but I just remember there was just chicks from like Meow and all those cool brands, and just coming to those comps and just like Amy Caron and stuff, like just killing it. And like, they were awesome, but it's like, I wish we had that opportunity to be able to skate all day.
Have you seen some of the modern day female skaters? Do you stay in touch with that kind of stuff?
Oh, for sure.
Is there any standouts for you these days?
Oh, like obviously there's a lot of the Japanese girls, which I couldn't pronounce a lot of their words, but they're just next level. It's like gymnasium stuff, like on a skateboard. And the thing is too, they're made for it. They're so lightweight and agile, and up they go in the air and just looks like nothing. Like I feel like I skated hard and fast, and when I fell hard. Like there was no in betweens. But obviously as well, there's Poppy, and there was at one point I sort of tried to start a brand and gave her some flow on boards. Did and stuff. Yeah, but not for like it didn't really work out. Like I didn't get to. I should have pushed it harder, but my kids were young. But so yeah, and then I just love for sure. As a Ocean and the British, but
Sky Brown.
Sky
Brown's British.
Sky Brown, and her brother's Ocean. That's why I said that.
Right,
so
gotcha. Yeah.
Love Sky, love her style, love her tricks.
Like, how do you feel that modern day female skateboarders are portraying themselves aesthetically with, like, say, fashions and stuff like that? Do you look at that sort of thing?
Oh, yeah, but I think that's always kind of happened. I kind of feel like skateboarders...
men do it as well.
Yeah, oh, yeah, for sure.
Yeah.
I feel like, though, skateboarders are always cutting edge with fashion. Like, I remember we used to wear massive baggy shorts, like cargos, and I remember we used to go into the utility, like the army shop, to get literally army pants and stuff.
But here's the question I'm trying to build up to.
Yeah.
Did you feel a pressure to dress like the boys?
No, I didn't feel the pressure to skate like to wear clothes like the boys. No,
okay.
But that's what I was comfortable in.
Gotcha. Okay.
Yeah, I wasn't really like if I was skating now, I wouldn't be wearing like a 3/4 bikini top type thing and tights or whatever. Like that's just not me. But look, there was times where like I'd wear a tighter fitting t-shirt or something. That was a trend too, I think, for the guys. So. But I kind of feel like skateboarders are individuals. They really show their personality, and they always show it through hair, through clothes, shoes, and they're usually in front of the fashion.
They are. But it's gone full circle. Like I was at a skate park yesterday in the city, and the young crew coming up, and they're ripping, skating good, but they're wearing like super baggy pants and tight T-shirts.
Well,
I'm just like,
that's what I remember. One of my photos that I had in Australian skateboarding, I look back at it as like, I think it was a Bonds top, which were cool back then.
Yeah, they were
It was
cool.
tight.
Yeah.
And then I had these massive shorts that you could probably fit two of me in. Yeah.
Yeah. And I'm just like, wow, it just really goes full circle. It's kind of like if I had just kept wearing the stuff I was wearing in the 90s and never stopped wearing it, it'd just be cool again. I'm cool again.
Yeah, and your pocket would be better off with cash too, mate. Wouldn't have had to buy all the stuff in between.
Yeah, that's it. Exactly. Yeah, trying to keep up. Yeah. And I love how that happens. And I've always wondered why skateboarders seem to be on the forefront of mainstream fashion. And then it's like, then the rest of the world catches up. You know, it's bizarre. They're setting the tones.
Yeah. I've always felt like it's been like that. Like I said, I felt like we were wearing stuff and then there was other people I knew outside skateboarding and then they'd be wearing it like nearly a year later and you're like, what have you been doing? We've been wearing this for ages. They're like, oh, it's cool. It's in the shops now. I'm like, yeah, but we got it. But I don't know. We'd be getting it from somewhere else. I don't know. Like I said, I remember going to army shops and stuff like that too.
Yeah, same.
So, but like I also wanted to try to wear stuff that I could move in, I was comfortable in, you know, because I felt like I didn't like wearing pants. So even though like a lot of the guys skate in there was loose pants then or jeans, I didn't like it because I felt like when I bent my knees to pop an ollie, you know, over something, that it was constricting me.
Gotcha.
Yeah, so I always wore shorts and I'd quite happily take the slam and take the skin off the knee rather than have the pants on that saved you a little bit. But that was just, I don't know, that's just the way I felt with it. And yeah, I mean, we used to wear massive T-shirts too, like at one stage before that.
Phase.
Yeah.
There was like big T-shirts and they got small and they're big again. Oh, well, I'm actually trying to get into the baggy T-shirt phase, but I just realised yesterday that now they're back to tight T-shirts.
Yeah, right.
With the cool kids that these guys I've seen yesterday. So
I just wear what I like now.
yeah,
I try to be somewhat relevant and fashionable, but I just don't care. I like what I like and I think I go all right. My kids, their friends think I'm the cool mum or some of them call me the cool mum, so I'm like, okay, I must be doing something right.
Do you talk about your skate days with your kids?
Yeah, they know about
aware?
it. Yeah, no, they know about it. They've seen the magazines and they've heard the stories and they've seen me skate. I don't skate a lot these days, but you know, there's a ramp up the road, Chifley, and when that was built, I was just like back in there and had to carve around the bowl and a drop in and that. But I've lost my nerve a little bit. But at the time when I was skating, then I'd got this thing called vestibular migraines, which is a little bit like vertigo. So it's almost like that feeling of the crystals in your ears all unbalanced. And so like dropping in and stuff, I was getting like these, my brain's not catching up with my body. And I was like, I'm going to have some bad stack here. And so I was like, I won't press with that. But look, I love it. As you can see, there's an electric skateboard sitting next to me.
I noticed that.
Bit of a machine.
Those things look terrifying.
Yeah.
They go so fast.
Yeah, like that's not as bad as some of those scooters that go nearly 100, but it goes like 35 or something. It's got the off-road tyres and when you get up at that speed, that's enough, to be honest.
You don't get death wobbles?
I have. Well, the first time I went on, I was being an idiot and I was filming it. Filming it down at the netball courts just up here at Heffron. And I'm like just like escalating, like, you know, next thing you know, I'm doing like 20. I'm like, no, I'm taking it to as much as I can. And then I was starting to run out of netball court. And I'm like, I'm at 30. I'm like, I want to go beyond 30. And I got it to like 33 or something. But then I realised I had to carve quickly because I had to turn because I'd run a netball court and I had to go across some grass to get to the next netball court adjacent. And as I hit that at speed, I got the death wobbles. I'm still filming all this and I handled it and got through. And I'm like, man, I'm filming, skateboarding, escalating and turning all at the same time. Like I'm multitasking here and I handled it. But I don't know. I was just doing it for the Insta, which is not a good thing to do, kids.
I know. I find myself doing stuff for the Insta too. Damn it. Damn you, Instagram. I was saying on my last podcast how much I hate Instagram, but I'm so addicted to it.
This is the thing.
Yeah, and Instagram barred me recently.
Oh,
because of a soundbite I put up with one of my guests talking about racism that she experienced.
Oh.
So they pulled it down and restricted my account for a week. I'm like,
weird.
what the? So censored. And
It's
I'm
ridiculous.
like, why do I look at this shit every day?
Yeah.
But then on the positive, like it's been a great way to connect with certain people and I get some beautiful DMs and have some nice conversations. So
that's the thing.
it just keeps me stuck in it.
Yeah, I prefer it more over the facey. I'm a bit over
Really?
the facey.
You're still
yeah.
on face? It's a bit,
Yeah,
I didn't
an
know
old
facey
woman
was still a
too.
thing.
Yeah, exactly. Old school. I should get off that. Again, I keep more of that stuff for the contact, trying to keep up with the family. Like I've got family in England and families walking in. G'day, family. So it's good from that. But I think Instagram's more of a positive message because it's usually photos and family having fun or holidays or, but I also think there's just a lot of fakeness on it as well. No one's on there crying or saying they had a bad day, really. I mean, it's like very rarely. Like it's.
But it
all the
used to
good
be
stuff.
when it first started.
Was it?
People would do that. They would
Yeah.
put up like everything. And then it's like now it's like less of that. I think people have become more savvy and smart on how to use it. And also if it is gnarly, like Facebook and Instagram just take it down.
Yeah, like I've heard a lot of the guys have got
been-
censored, like Jet, like I was talking
Sanitized.
Skunk.
Skunk's
I
always.
think he's got off
I
a
remember
few
when he was
times.
getting. I remember when he was getting shut down off Facebook all the time because he
Yeah.
was posting just like
it's-
gnarly opinions and like good.
but
Like I
it's
agree with a lot of
fine.
the shit he was
Yeah.
saying, but
Same. But that's the thing, like I just don't agree with that Big Brother watching and the censorship. Like people, as long as you're not hurting people like it's scarring people or something like that, then it should be allowed. Like there's different opinions in the world.
and that's the thing. I think like people should have free speech, and people should also just be accountable for what they choose to look at and consume. It's like if you don't like that stuff and you don't like what that person's about, just don't follow them and don't look at their stuff. We don't need to be like wrapped in cotton wool and told what we can and can't see.
Yeah.
And I think I'm going to sound a little bit controversial here, but I think sometimes it's necessary to witness the extremes in things, so then you can gauge like a balancing point in your own ideas.
Yeah. Well,
But
it
we're not,
shapes
it's like
you.
we're not allowed to do that. What they do is they put us in this like unrealistic echo chamber with people that have the same ideas and thoughts, and that's all we're seeing on our feeds.
Yep.
And I think it keeps us stuck and also separated.
Yeah, there's no progression in it, like it's like Big Brother's watching and controlling. And that's what I hate, like, because during COVID, I noticed a whole bunch of like spy cameras on the streets and parks.
Did you?
Yeah, like some of them, like there's like you can see the surf and stuff now too, and you can look that up and all that. But there's like, how you get all those white cameras now that aren't speed cameras on the streets and stuff. And I think
but they're for our
detectives,
safety.
the detectives use it if there's a crime or something. And that's fine,
Like
but also
CCTV.
yeah, but there's so much of it, so many buildings now, and you can't scratch yourself and someone's going to know about it, And even with socials too, like I'm not really much in the Snapchat, some of my friends are, and they allow each other to see one another, and it's it can be so dangerous, and it's like people know too much and people share too much.
They do, and we're very tracked, even with our spending. We are effectively in a cashless society.
Yeah.
I'm in an interesting situation at the moment. There was a fraud attempt on my card, so the bank cancelled my card. So I'm in that period of 7 days waiting for a new card. So I had to get a bunch of cash, so I could live.
Yeah.
And it's amazing how many people, like businesses, just don't want to take your cash, or they don't have change, or.
Yeah.
And I've even been to one place and go, no, we only do card here, which legally they're not allowed to do.
That's what I thought, but I was in a shop yesterday down in Bondi Junction buying my daughter something in a sports shop, and it just said card only accepted, no cash.
Yeah.
I was like,
Well, they're
is
not
that
legally allowed to
allowable?
do it. But do you let your kids use social media?
Yeah, look, my daughter, I was going to wait till high school to let her get on there, but she was actually born with a hand difference, and I wanted her to see there's a lady in America doing fantastic things. It's called a condition called symbrachydactyly. You're just not born with digits on your hands. You just got nubbins. And I wanted her to see that there's other people like her around, and they're really, and you don't get that exposure. It's not that common. So I allowed her to get on that to see them and follow them and do that earlier on. I think she was in year 6 or something. But she's really a responsible child, so it wasn't a risk. But I think now, it's just shit for kids. There's just, I don't know how I just don't know how to navigate it myself. They don't know how to navigate it, and then they see stuff and then they're missing out on it and they're upset. My son's not really on it. I think he went on Snapchat because someone wanted, like his mates were on, they wanted to contact him, and I think he was at some event and some girl goes, "Can I have your snap?" He goes, "What? I don't have it." But
I mean, that's the thing. Like that's what's the hard thing for teenagers. Like they're almost at a social disadvantage if they don't have it.
Yeah.
And as a teenager, you want to be connected socially because your social life's everything as a teenager.
For sure.
But
it's like their identity.
Exactly. And then it's like they're forced into it.
Yeah. Yeah.
And then, like you said, with that comes all the problems that go along with it.
It's so hard. So it's like you're damned if you do, you're damned if you don't kind of thing. Like if you don't give it to them, they're just going to rebel and be angry with you. If you give it to them, then they're annoyed because they're missing out and stuff, and they just don't have that maturity sometimes to deal with it. But I think like they're better with it themselves now, and you have to just sort of educate and say, look, before that we just didn't know we weren't invited to this stuff. That's just the difference, you know.
Yeah.
And, you know, I don't think people are doing it on purpose and that kind of thing, and you're just trying to navigate through it. But, look, I think everyone, and probably including myself, spend too much time flicking through it. And it's just you're not even mindful. You're just going whack, whack, whack with your thumb or whatever, and it's just like, what am I doing? It's just like a time killer.
Yeah, I mean, it is. It also acts like a for me, sometimes I just notice myself just blank out.
Yeah.
And it's almost like this real numbing behaviour.
Yeah.
Because especially if like I'm stressed or busy, it's like I'm just going to numb out on this.
Yeah.
It's like I might as well go and smoke a ciggy or something.
Yeah. Yeah, look, sometimes, you know, like if like I don't like ads on TV or for watching live TV and that kind of thing. Or if I know something's coming up and I want to know about a sport or something, you know, because I use it like that too to follow a few things because I'm like quite into soccer and stuff now. So
do you play?
Yeah, I do.
I knew that.
Love it.
So you play in like what league? Tell us about
no, I'm just in association football, so just locally, which is part of ESFA, so the Eastern Suburbs Football Association. I play for Maroubra United, which is, you know, about a kilometre from here down the road, Coral Sea.
Wow.
But I didn't have a good introduction. I got through one season and then that was sort of like COVID. We didn't get through the full season actually. That was 2020 and then it stopped in June. We all got locked down and I didn't get through the season. I'm like, okay, I like this. And then the following season we started pre-training in 21 and in training I dislocated my elbow.
Oh, I thought you were going to say ACL.
No, all the women are doing that.
Everyone does ACL.
Yeah, especially
How'd you
women.
do that? It just fell over in a tackle or something?
Well, there was no one near me. It's fully my fault. Again, me, my competitive self. So I'm like trying to do the technique that the coaches have told me, like was run in, strike the ball. It was like kicking it over these posts. And so you had to get under the ball and lift it and like give it a bit of a whack. And the other coach that was watching said I kind of must have slipped my foot over the ball and rolled. He goes, you're lucky you didn't roll your ankle as well. And then I fell like because I was really running into it, full straight arm. And because it was straight arm at such force through the wrist, it pops out your radius and ulnar off your humerus. Like that's how you dislocate. It's usually that straight arm and it's the force and the angle. And they literally both came off the hook. Like there's a bulb on the end of your humerus that the two bones connect to in like a sort of looks like almost like a robot little clampy arm thing. And then just fully they came. I'm telling you now, I've had 2 kids. That was worse.
Worse pain.
Worse pain.
I don't believe it though. Sorry.
Oh, dude.
I've seen childbirth. It's gnarly.
Yeah. Well, I actually was reading a story recently. I had 2 kids, one 15 hours without any painkillers and ended up having to have it because it was a complex birth. And then the second one, nothing.
First. And the second one, easy?
A quickish birth, 2.5 hours and nothing, no painkillers. And I still feel like the dislocation was worse.
Really? You poor thing.
Oh, it was hectic.
When did you meet your husband?
We met at work. He worked for another company, the opposition. We were working on Star City Casino, which was the biggest development at the time.
Yeah.
It was about the mid-90s. And he was working on that and I was working with another company, working in a project office, and initially we were just friends and stuff like that. Yeah, so it was then, and then we got married in 2001.
And not a skateboarder.
And not a skateboarder.
So you're telling me, Sal, you had like this endless resource of hot skater boys, you know?
I know. I think I needed just an element outside of that. Just something.
Scarred.
No. Most of the guys, like I said, they were really good to me. Initially, just those formative beginning years, they were a bit funny, but the guys were good to me. But I don't know. I just needed something outside of that. And look, it was sort of one of those fateful things as, we were there and that's how it all occurred organically.
Can I ask, did you ever date any skaters?
No. Oh,
Can't remember.
I only had like really one boyfriend before him, and he did skate, but he was a surfer too. But I wouldn't say he was like in the crew of skaters. He was from New Zealand, and he'd sort of been in the country for a few years, and he liked skating, but he was also a surfer.
Okay, gotcha.
So,
yeah, interesting.
yeah.
Sorry to ask that question.
No, it's weird, hey, because most people think that. They're like, you've got the pick of the bunch. Wouldn't you just grab one of the guys? And I'm like, no, they just all seem like brothers and friends. And there was always just that mutual respect of friends. There's a couple of boys maybe was sort of flirty, but not many. Like especially the guys I grew up with, it wasn't like that. It never felt weird or like that.
Yeah, because, we talked about some of the negative experiences you had, like skateboarding. But you also had a lot of love from the skate community in Australia.
Big time. And that's why I don't want to make it like that.
Yeah, like everyone loves you. And like like I was saying to you recently, I've had numerous people shout out like, get Sally on. And the last one was Skunk. Jeff Williams reached out to me. He's like, when are you going to get Sally on? I'm like, all right, Sal, let's do this.
No,
but numerous other people had said it, I think. Like,
and for someone who was the outsider at the time, like this is early days, and then I did feel the love. Like I said, I reckon it was just the formative years, the first year or two, and there was a couple of teething problems. But then after that, once I knew I was in it, I proved myself. I was here to stay. I was performing on the skateboard. I was, doing well at it. And then I was accepted. Like it was like the sister. Like Daryl Fletcher used to call me Sister Sal. That was one of my nicknames from Sister Sal, and many other nicknames with the boys. And like they had my back, and there were some gnarly dudes too. Like, a lot of them were tough exterior, like even Jeff back in the day, but he's a full marshmallow, and same as Glenn Scott, like tough dude. Like I remember playing chicken with him on the vert ramp, and I'm like, dude, if this dude hits me full on, I'm gone.
Yeah,
like
you're coming off second best.
Much second best. And those kind of guys. And and it was just the grit and determination I had, and I think they respected that, and I've got full love for those guys. Yeah,
for sure. Do you think that grit and determination has transferred into your real adult life, working life, family life?
Yeah, for sure.
Sports life?
Definitely. I think sports become more natural to me, but I still had to work hard at it. And I think academically, like I said, I didn't have the focus. Probably, like I said, I got each AD, I'd say, or something like. So the focus was harder. But once I found my love, and then I always wanted to prove myself, and like I'm my own hardest marker. So I'm always like, you've got to work hard. You've got to do well. You've got to prove it, and it's for me too, because I always like most people like you don't see the down in me so much because I do come across confident and stuff, but like everyone has that reflection and can you do this? And I'm like, I just always had parents who were like, never give up, see things through. You do an apprenticeship, you've seen it through. You're not a quitter, that kind of thing. Commit. And so I didn't want to quit on anything. Yeah.
I kind of was thinking about it, like, how skateboarders have always been kind of like outcasts,
Yeah, for sure.
But then like, to be a minority within an activity that's considered outcast. I don't want to build it up more than it is, but that's how I sort of see you a little bit, and then to then be successful within that. When you spoke to people that weren't skaters and you told them you're a skater, how was it received by just like?
So when going back in school years, it was probably not initially cool. Wasn't because it was like I didn't hang out with many of I went to a girls' school, so I didn't hang out with many of the girls, right? So I was at the ramp on the weekend with the boys, and apart from hockey on the weekend, which was my sport-free school, wasn't really with them unless there was a birthday party or whatever. So it wasn't initially cool, but then later towards high school it was. Workmates and they'd spin out because they'd see me in the suit and see me at the desk and see me doing a professional job. And they're like, what? You're a skateboarder? What? You're sponsored? What? You go in comps, or you tour, you coach, whatever. They just don't see it. So there's probably different sides to me that people see in my life in different facets, but I'm still me. Like I'm always me. Like, I'm never fake, but you have to adapt to your situation as well. Like, I can't be Skatey Sal in the corporate office. Like, you see glimpses of it, little jokes here and there and stuff, but, you know, you've got to also have the street cred with what you're delivering at that point and what you're doing. But I feel deep down, like, once a skater, always a skater. Like, I'm always going to be a skater. I'm always going to be Skatey Sal, and that's me. And I still feel like that. Like I said, I'm not really doing. I've got massive foot issues at the moment with plantar fasciitis as well. So
that's a soccer thing.
That's
a soccer thing.
Yeah. Oh, that's why I'm wearing these massive pumped up shoes at the moment. But
nice.
It's the only thing helping me because
I need a pair of those. They make me taller. They make you taller?
Yeah, they do. They've got a hell of a sole, but I tell you, they're like walking on clouds, these Hoka shoes. I was like, they're bloody ugly, but I'm like, I don't give a rat's. I'm just wearing them for comfort. I'll literally stand up after sitting out. Like, after this, I'll be standing up like looking like C-3PO out of Star Wars, like doing a little shuffle for a minute like Grandpa, because, it's not good, but I'm trying to work through it. I'm seeing a podiatrist and, jeez, I tell you.
Foot stuff sucks.
Oh, yeah.
It really does. Let's talk about, you know, when skating started to maybe dwindle off. Was it around the time you maybe finished your your training to be an engineer and working full time, or how did it sort of start to dwindle off?
I remember it dwindling off a bit.
Was it an injury?
It was dwindled off. I thought remember 92, that was getting quiet around the early 90s. I was still at school and stuff, but I still just loved it so much. I didn't care. We weren't sort of padding up like we were in riding vert, but it was more like you were skating at the bottom and doing hand plants and kick flips and fakie and, like I said, playing bloody chicken with Glenn Scott and Fish and all those dudes and Dying and whoever. But we just saw it through. But, you know, I still had support from the industry as well. And then it came, and then I was inlining and I was like, nah, I'm not doing that. I remember a couple of guys defected that and that, geez, they got heckled. And I'm like, I'm not doing that. I've been on them and look, it is a bit of fun for a minute. But for me, there wasn't enough challenge.
Yeah.
I'm like, it's stuck to your foot. You just jump and it's going with you. Like, I like the fact with skateboarding, that's what I like about soccer too. It's so technically difficult. You've got to use your feet, you know.
It's funny how there's like a lot of skaters who are soccer players, or they're soccer players first, then went to skateboarding.
Oh, really?
It really translates for sure. I mean, I played soccer before I skateboarded.
Oh, right.
So, that's a real correlation there, I think.
Yeah, for sure. I mean, that's what I like about it. I find soccer really tricky too. There's just so much to it and there's just so much to learn, and just the touches and the control and like how, like, when you watch a World Cup and the Matildas and you watch that level and you're just like, that was the best.
The best.
Yeah.
Did you, I mean, I loved everything about it. And you know Sid Tapia? He did a bunch, and I feel like I always talk about Sid on here lately. But he's
a legend.
He's such a
Street
great guy.
master.
Yeah, anyway, he did murals of all the Matildas in Brisbane on a wall.
Oh, did he?
You got to go and check out his Instagram. Like, they're insane. And then I think before their last game, all the players, because it was near their hotel.
Oh, yeah.
It was outside the stadium, I think, in Brisbane, where he did the
good.
murals, and they were all walking past.
That's brilliant.
And he got selfies with all of them with their picture.
Oh, sweet.
It's so rad.
Yeah. I love stuff like that. There's one down on Bondi Beach as well of a couple of players, the Matildas. Yeah, you know how they have panels? Yeah. There's like sort of like a 3-metre panel for each artist, and I noticed there's one there with, I think, Catlin Ford, and it might be Kerr, and I can't remember another one.
Do you think it was a kick in the ass for female sport in Australia? Like, it's
what they needed.
Do you think it was needed?
Yeah, I mean, as a girl in skateboarding too, which really didn't have the support, I kind of can relate to it, you know, like, and some sports translate so well because, you know, like tennis, like you watch the women's tennis, you watch the men's, and some people say they prefer to watch the women because there's so much technique and grace and
100%.
And the, you know, the men are obviously great and powerful, but they're just slamming it bang, bang, bang from the back line. And soccer, I feel, is a little bit like that. I obviously love the guys as well watching it, but they're so powerful and so quick, they're just slamming them in, whereas the women is very strategic. They're going from side to side and catching each other out, and the touches are graceful. It's like ballet.
Yeah, and I find they play more structured football, and there's less ego, and I feel
Yeah.
like a lot better. There's more teamwork. There's no heroes or
Yeah.
less heroes. Although
Yeah.
the team has got heroes, but you know what I mean. They play really structured football.
Oh, yeah. Yeah, I love watching it, like those games and how well those girls went and how they were filling stadiums. Like, hello, like, why weren't we doing this 30 years ago? You know, it's the same as with the NRL too. Now there's, 8 teams, mate. Is there? I don't know. But, you know, that's building. And, you know, they could hardly have a league before. And same as with the AFL. Like,
But now the NRL have got like the full league going. I watched the women. I watched the women's grand final on Sunday.
yeah.
Yeah.
And they're pulling massive crowds. And, you know, like when I was a kid, like we grew up with rugby league. I love, obviously, Manly Seagulls, which no one likes, but of course.
I know everyone hates the Seagulls.
Everyone hates the Seagulls except for Seagulls. But well, obviously I'm from there. My dad was a South Sydney supporter. He was from here. Yeah, so there's always arguments.
So when your parents separated, he lived on this side. He moved to this side of town.
No, he was still staying on the northern beaches.
So he was close by.
Yeah,
So when it was your time with him.
Yeah, he wasn't too far away. Yeah. So he moved from different places from time to time. Initially it was like Avalon, then Newport, and then Collaroy Plateau, and then Terry Hills. My family over there is back in Mona Vale, like my stepmom and my brothers, they're in Mona Vale. But they were always a little bit further north. And my mum's still in Queenscliff.
Did your dad repartner?
Yeah. So he married my stepmom, which they've been married for, I don't know, a long time.
Yeah.
Probably for 35. Well, he passed away 2012, so 11 years ago. Yeah. So, but yeah, they were always nearby, not too far.
And sorry, I know we just went off on a massive tangent.
That's
because I am curious about this. Like, despite the every second weekend situation as a kid, do you think that impacted on your closeness to him in a negative way?
No, like Dad's my hero. He still is. I still.
So you don't think it impacted your relationship?
Well, look, yeah. I mean, I missed him. Like there was initial shock and missing him, and then kids are quite resilient in some way. I suppose I just adapted, and I'd still see him. And then we still went on family holidays with him. Like Dad gave us good family holidays and memories and stuff like that. And Dad was still like, even if sometimes it wasn't his weekend with us, like if there was a game that I couldn't get a lift with another parent, like he'd come down and pick me up at my house where I was with my mum, and then take me and mates. Like, so there was always that commitment. But I just idolised him so much, looked up to him so much, because we just got on so well, and he just got me. I felt like he was the person that got me, you know. And everyone's got one, and usually it's in your family or someone. And so, like, you know, like I said, I followed his footsteps in the engineering, and we hardly ever had any arguments, and I don't know, I just felt like I was a lot like him. Maybe that's why we just got each other.
Something about him you just identified with, right?
Fully.
How special!
It was so special. So for me, like he used to take us fishing and off the rocks at Avalon and down crazy rocks to go rock fishing, and like he'd keep me safe though. And there's a big wave, quick run, you know, get up on that high rock and all that stuff, and like the waves and the beach, and he'd teach us all that, and the rips and body surfing and memories.
He was giving you experiences, not things.
And that's the thing, 100%. It's not the menial things. He wasn't buying. Like obviously he still supported us, but it was more the opportunities, the memories, the holidays. That's the stuff I remember, and that's what I just keep trying to say to people in similar situations. I'm like, when you're dead, you can't take the money to your grave with you. You know, you're going to be taking the memories. Then when you're on your deathbed, it sounds a bit morbid talking about this stuff, but when you're sick, right, what are you going to remember? You're going to remember what you do with your family. You're going to remember what you do with your kids, your husband, your partner, that family holiday, those special memories, like I've got very, very vivid holiday memories of going to Narooma off Montague Island, fishing with my dad, catching fish, getting up early at the crack when no one's awake. It's dark. I'm like, I don't want to get up, but Dad's woke me up. We're going fishing. We've got special time.
Yes.
that sort of stuff. And like hockey too, like he was there and he like him and one of my mates, the dads, they were, like there's just a few dads and they'll be like cheering like we were on the NRL grand final, and we'd relive it afterwards. Oh, this happened, that happened, blah, blah.
You're not thinking about I don't know if you had fancy cars, you're not thinking about the things you owned. You're thinking about those things.
Oh, 100%.
And like you just said, oh, no, it sounds a bit morbid. Like I don't think it is morbid. I think we're all going to die. And I think more people just need to consider that.
Yeah.
How finite our time is. And it's like, how are you going to spend this time?
Yep.
Like you don't get any of these minutes back. None of them. You
don't.
Back. So, and like I've said this a few times on the show, like I went through this period a couple of years ago where I just had to go to a lot of funerals. Like a lot of people in my world were dying, including my father.
Oh, sorry to hear it.
No, thanks. It's fine. And you're starting to listen to eulogies a lot.
Yeah.
And you start to hear what people reflect on, and it's all that stuff. I didn't hear a single person say, man, they accumulated an investment portfolio of 20 properties, and that was so impressive.
Exactly.
Nah.
That's it. And that's what I'm trying to do with my kids too, and like going back to working part-time and all that. Like my husband and I are like trying to give them memories like holidays. Like we haven't done a lot of overseas holidays like a lot of people do, but I'm quite Australian. I'm proud of Australia and I love Australia. I toured a lot of Australia skateboarding and coaching kids and with Billabong and that. And so I'll be like taking my family through different places and we're working our way through. We haven't seen all of it together. I've seen a fair bit of it, but I'm like, took them to Darwin last holidays. Darwin, like, it's nuts. I hadn't been to Darwin. I've been to Northern Territory couple. Oh, it's brilliant. Yeah. And we just had the best holiday. I was just so Aussie. Loved it. Crocs and red dirt and bush and hotness and weather and sunsets and
it's amazing. Yeah. That's what my parents do. My parents retired and bought an old school bus, turned into a motorhome. Yeah. They've been doing it for 14 years now. And
really?
Just traveling around Australia, like to the point where I'm getting to be like, man, you guys are too old for this shit. And they're just like, nah, we're never stopping. Yeah. And same thing, they're just like, you need to see more of Australia. Yeah. It's epic. And they just effectively doing laps of the country.
Good on them.
And
that's what I want to do.
Yeah, it's the best life, yeah. But can we just talk a bit about your Billabong? How'd the Billabong sponsorship come about? Because that's a pretty epic sponsor in terms of like, it's a pretty big name.
It was pretty huge.
How did that come about? Bart Carnes?
Bart, the OG. He so I knew Bart from Sydney. So even though I was a Manly girl, we'd come over to Bondi a lot. We'd skate. Back then there was the vert ramp, which you could watch from the car park, and that was brilliant. And then, later on it got redeveloped to what it is now with the bowl and the street park bowl and all that. But we used to skate the vert ramp there with him, and Ty Colling was there, and there'd be bloody Barry from Wollongong come up, Baz and Ty and Mick and God, heaps of the guys, Dave Evans and Danny Van Whalen. Is it Danny Van? Yeah, Danny Van.
Danny Van, yeah.
Yeah, heaps of the dudes. And Skunk and list goes on. And we'd all be skating there and all that sort of stuff. So, we'd get about and Bart was there and Bart used to come, I think, sometimes to Manly, but they were looking for a girl again. Sorry, I'm wrecking things. So they were looking for a girl on the team, and back then obviously surf dominated, but they wanted a skate team because in America there was a skate team. So there was the Pappas brothers, Ben and Taz, and then they had at the time they had everyone that was super cool. They had Bucky Lasik, Brian Patch, bunch of dudes, and like we did a bunch of Vans. Was it not Vans? Did there was stuff with bloody Osher, who's
Osher Ginsberg.
What
was he doing?
He was doing a lot of the MC stuff back in the day for some of those things that they tour.
Not the Vans Warped Tour.
Wasn't Vans. It was something to do with Billabong. I remember rocking up because remember when they were doing Idol, it was him and the other guy. What was his name?
That was a duo. Yeah, darker hair. And that was when Osher
was
Ginsberg went as
G.
Andrew G.
Yeah.
And then actually went back to his original name, which I think is rad.
Yeah. So
I forget the other guy's name.
Oh, no, I feel a bit bad now.
I never watched Australian Idol.
Yeah, so they were both there, and I remember we were at Fox Studios and then they'd ramp set up and we toured around and they were on the buses. Like they had a massive coach and stuff. But yeah, like it was Bart. So at the end of the day, I don't know, Bart was like, we've got to have Sal, and they approached me, and then that was like my first proper contract type thing where I did have incentives and you know, if you got a mag or you got a first place, you got X amount of money. But it wasn't just that. They were so generous, like the amount of product you could get. And if I was going to the snow, I could get stuff like not correlating to skateboarding. I get a full snowsuit. I could get, if I wanted to go for a surf, full wetsuit. Like I had so much in accessories. I get massive, awesome bags and like we'll just kid. You could never have enough. I remember going up to Queensy one time.
Just kidded you out all the time.
It was nuts. Like you couldn't get through it. Like sometimes I was like, wish someone else was my own size. Like we'd go up to Queensy one time. It was to start a tour and I didn't have enough Billabong stuff on, but I was a bit naive and not very commercially aware. And I had rocked up and I think I had a Volcom jumper on or something, like something that I shouldn't have really been wearing. And then like, what's wrong with you? What Peanut OG. I'm like, I don't know. I must have won some stuff. And then they're like, don't you have enough stuff? And I'm like, oh, and then they're like, take her out the back, take her out in the warehouse. And like, just gave me another massive bag of clothes that I could hardly get on without having a heavyweight sticker on my bag.
Crazy.
Yeah. So look, they were super generous. It was good. And it was good. They kind of made our logo for skateboarding, which is a bit different to the surf one. And, you know, when you got dudes like the Pappas brothers, you know, and Bucky Lasik on the label.
Gave us some credit.
Yeah, and there was obviously Bart, there was myself, there was Russell Grundy.
Oh, yeah, he's from Newcastle.
Yeah.
Yeah.
There was Russ. Yeah, who else? Oh, I'm really forgetting names and I'm seeing faces. Yeah, it was mad.
That's a good team to be part of, yeah.
It was good.
I mean, for me, it was kind of like when corporate sponsorship first started coming into skateboarding. That's how I sort of seen Billabong because they were such a big company in the surf realm.
Oh, yeah.
You know, and I think by that stage they're already floated on the share market. So they were proper corporate. But, yeah, it was good to see skaters getting properly hooked up.
Yeah, well, we looked after properly because, you know, like you got a skateboarder in charge of the skate team, then, you know, that's what you want. You don't want just corporates in there trying to direct skateboarders. So it did feel a bit more authentic.
Yeah.
You know, but, you know, we were doing stuff like where I think we flew down to Adelaide and literally went up the East Coast and ended up in Caloundra. And there was a comp up there on that last day, and that was probably one of the few comps where there was, you know, there were girls, and like I was like, oh God, I had no time. I had no time on the park, and they had the girls comp at 9 o'clock, and the boys were all sleeping in, and then Bart's like, quick, just let's leave. We'll come back for the boys. You've got to get there. And I rocked up, and they'd already started the comp, and I hadn't even had a roll. I'm like, oh, here we go. But I ended up winning it. It was one of the it was one of the World Cup contests or whatever. So they were like, oh, Australian Bowl Riders champion or something at the time.
Qualifier.
Yeah, I was like, I don't know how I nailed it. I just didn't fall off that day. I was just going for stuff, and I was not a drink, not much of a drinker at all.
You're not a drinker.
Nah.
Interesting.
Nah, drug free, all that stuff. Clean skin, pretty much.
Lovely. Likewise.
Just occasional drink here and there. I've seen enough bad stuff with drinking, but I'm not really into it. So I get a couple of drinks for tipsy on occasion, but
it's not for you.
Not for me.
So, yeah.
Been offered stuff and with the boys and the hash and
Interesting.
No.
I'm going to SLS next weekend, you know, Street League.
Yeah,
skateboarding.
wow.
And I just want to witness the spectacle. I mean, because it's like a really corporate skateboarding event.
Yeah.
Now they've got huge corporate sponsors. And
Where
stuff
is
like
it?
that. It's at Homebush.
Oh, right. Oh, yeah, I was going to get tickets.
Not in the main arena, not at Kudos Bank Arena. The other, like the tennis arena. What do you call it?
Oh, wow.
Like a sick venue. It's a great venue. But I'm just really curious, like, and I don't know I've never understood how I feel about SLS because the skaters are so good. Like those guys on that tour are amazing. And I'm really stoked to see skateboarders make money. I really am. But I don't know, there's an element of purist in me.
Oh, yeah,
that
for sure.
Doesn't want them to take skateboarding offers. But then Rob Diedek started it and he's an OG. I don't know.
It's hard to know.
I feel conflicted. Maybe I should just chill and just be grateful that skateboarding's progressed to this level. I don't know.
I hear you.
What do you think?
I hear you. I mean, look, I remember Dad saying, oh, I'd love skateboarding in the Olympics.
Yeah, same.
And I was peaking.
Back in the day.
Back in the day. And like it was around the Sydney 2000 time too. And they were going to have it as a demonstrative sport. And he goes, oh, if they do that, you'd probably make it for Australia for women. And I'm like, yeah, but. And I was peaking at that time too. I was like probably at my peak with skateboarding. It would have been brilliant. But
how old do you reckon?
How old was I? Oh, so 20, how was it?
Like
24 or something?
So mid-20s?
24, yeah.
Peak,
Yeah.
Sounds about right.
Yeah.
Peaking skateboarding.
Yeah, about that. And, I was just doing well with it. It would have been good timing. But anyhow, it didn't happen. And then it didn't happen the next one in Athens. And so the promise goes on. And then eventually, obviously, they got it in now and I'm well beyond my expiry date. But, look, I hear you. I kind of, like, people were saying this to us when we were coaching. There was purists going, you don't coach, skateboarding's not a coaching sport, we never got any help, you didn't ask questions, it's hardcore, you just got to learn on your own, you're on your own, go for it. But at the same time, once I started coaching and seeing the progression and how much it helped and how it was nurturing, I was like, you know what, there's probably something in this. And I feel like skateboarders are some of the hardcore athletes of the world. Like, they're throwing their bodies down on concrete, steel, metal, whatever. And you look at other sports like soccer and tennis and that, and I'm not saying they go hard at it either, but they're not physically throwing their bodies on the floor like us. And they're probably not getting the injuries like we've had. And they're getting paid millions.
It's because I talk to a lot of MMA fighters.
Oh, yeah.
Because I'm a really enthusiast of MMA,
like
mixed
it.
martial arts. Yeah. Because you're an old martial artist.
Yeah.
And actually, I'm actually curious to pick your brain about, because you're more of in the pure aspect of martial arts. But anyway. And aside from the head knocks, those guys have even said that they think skateboarding is harder on the body.
Oh, yeah.
And the injuries are way heavier. If you're someone who's really pushing skateboarding, I'm not just talking about the average Joe like me who's playing it real safe, because I've got no reason to push myself. I can't afford to be injured. But, like even they're saying it, it's like, our injuries don't compare. They do have some pretty catastrophic injuries, but they're not that often. Yeah.
Yeah, but I think we were idiots too. Like, I used to skate no helmet all the time.
Same, I still do.
I know. And like, I remember even filming down at bloody I probably would still too if I jumped on a board, you know what I mean? Like,
Yeah.
But I remember filming once when we were with Billabong, and I think it was Matt Murray who was one of the filming dudes back then. And I remember, like, it's not a full-on gnarly trick, but it kind of is like just a rock and roll in the deep end of the bowl. There, no pads though, not even knee pads. So if I was bailing, I have to run out. I didn't have a helmet, and it's tight and it's whippy. And like, I landed and they filmed it. I never even saw the footage actually, and there was some filmers there too. Never even saw the photo. I would have loved to have. But anyhow, if you're out there, whoever that was, I'd love to see it. But
send it in.
But like, I'm an idiot. And then like now when you got kids, like you said, when you got kids, and you're like, all it takes is one like whip out, head knock, you know, and your brain's not the same ever again.
I know.
So much at risk.
Because my son, he's 5, and I take him skating, and I'm like, he's not allowed to skate without his helmet on.
Yeah.
And he also puts knee pads and elbow pads on, but sometimes like I let him skate with just a helmet. So he's going, you know, like, and I'll be honest, like, he's just cruising around slow, and I kind of want him to fall. I don't want him to like feel that and toughen up a little bit. And he's like, how come I have to wear a helmet? Where's your helmet? You know? Yeah. I'm like, it's like, and why don't you wear one? And he's like, he's cheeky little bugger too. And I'm like, I don't know how to explain it to you. It's just like, it's just what I've done for 30 plus years.
Yeah.
No helmet.
But I kind of feel like too, like when you get to that level and you skated for that long, like I kept trying to explain to people at the time too, if you fall, it's like a 1%, like not even a 1%. Like, you know how to fall. You're like a cat. You get to your feet. You know how to roll. You know how to not get that abrasive knot. Like, I don't know, like I hardly remember hitting my head. Like, I remember once on that dodgy mini ramp Manly, my truck locked and I just headbutted the bottom and ended up with one of those egg things on your forehead. But apart from, then I didn't get concussed or anything there. Like, I've been concussed as a kid on a bloody bike. But,
yeah, right, there you go. And you know, it's funny, the one time I got knocked out cold on a skateboard was I had a helmet on. I dropped in, collided with another guy who's dropped in the other way. Yeah, it was horrendous.
Wow.
And I was only 12 or 13 and we collided and I had a helmet on. Yeah. And
what, did your heads knock?
No, just because I was small, the sheer impact. And I mean, I don't even remember. All I actually remember was standing on the platform because, you know, when you have a pretty good head knock, it's like your brain wipes out everything that happened before.
Yeah. Yeah.
So I vaguely, I just remember walking up the steps of the vert ramp and then that was it.
Yeah. That's scary.
It's like, you dropped in and collided with that guy.
Yeah.
And that was when I had a helmet on. So.
Yeah. It doesn't always help. I mean, when I had the concussion on my bike, I didn't have a helmet on.
So you had a bad stack?
Yeah. It was back in the day at Alambie, and I I was a rat bag kid and I used to make jumps in my little cul-de-sac, and we'd make jumps with planks of wood.
Yeah.
You know, sometimes they'd split and you'd hit the curb and go whack, whack, whack over. And I remember making them once too high. I literally did a backflip and just like landed, and it's hectic. But anyhow, this particular time with the concussion, Mum had the rules going on. The cul-de-sac end was fine because it had a slight tilt and there was only a few houses at the end of the cul-de-sac. But from our house down, it went quite steep and around a corner that you couldn't see what was going on.
Yeah.
And there was a couple of other cul-de-sacs that came off our street. So if one came around, you'd be gone. So Mum would be like, 2 houses down, that's it, you can't go further. But she wasn't around, so, you know. So anyhow, I had this kid and I'm like, okay, you sit on the seat and I'll just, you know, do the old stand up and pedal. And so I'm pedaling down the hill with him sitting on the seat. But he was wriggling around and not really confident on a bike. And he's like trying to adjust. And I'm like, dude, like keep still. And he didn't. So we get to the bottom and we've hit full pace. And we're getting the death wobbles because he's moving. And all I can remember is like just telling him to stop. And apparently I hit the curb with my face and took like half my left cheek out and just missed my eye and fully grazed. And they said if it went any higher, it probably could have done full damage, like life-changing damage to my eye. But I got concussed, can't remember anything. And it was apparently Christmas time. So I end up in the hospital and like I'll be like, oh, what's that? Like Christmas decoration? They're like, yeah, it's Christmas. And then like a minute later, what's that? So, is that Christmas decoration? So it's pretty scary for the family.
Yeah, right. They just had that full like mental recall. Like you couldn't remember things and you
nothing. So I was like a fish. I had like the 3-second memory.
Like amnesia almost.
Yeah.
Shit.
So that like I kept like repeating myself, and like my sister was there and I remember her saying like it was so scary. I thought like you were gonna have like a full life injury, like never be the same. But yeah, thankfully I got through that. But the worst part was more the dressings. I had to be getting this thing dressed for weeks and it was all pussy. And I remember going to my dad's one time and he forgot to change it in time. Being a dad, he's probably not on it as much as Mum. Mum's like, you got to change it it was several times a day, right? And we were at a Christmas party or whatever and Dad's like, oh, whatevs, you know. And then he got home and he had to take it off and it like caught like a stuck and like he ripped it off and the whole thing come off and it was like,
Crazy.
I remember that.
Wow, that's crazy.
Yeah.
So where you're at in life now, comparably, would you say it's the happiest you've ever been?
Yeah, like I've got a lot of stability. My husband brought in a lot of stability. He's quite grounded. He's, you know, not part of that skateboarding fraternity, which was a good thing at the time because just needed something separate. Oh,
Dogs.
The dogs. They always know when someone's there's
Guard
like
dogs.
a light on like an ambulance. It's strange. We're in the cul-de-sac, but yet we've got some. That was
It's
weird.
like a security car.
Yeah. They know you're here,
Yeah,
Shan.
God,
They're after you.
hiding. It's something I've been meaning to tell you. I'm on the run. So.
Yeah. He's here.
Yeah.
And look, you know, I've worked hard and, you know, we've got a nice house and a lovely family and got a lot of support from his family, particularly when the kids were growing up, and same as with my family as well. But, you know, like I'm lucky. Like I live on the eastern suburbs in a nice place, in a nice house, in a nice neighbourhood. I've got a good job.
So you're grateful for that?
I am, mate.
And you acknowledge it?
Oh, for sure. I've never been handed anything on the platter like that. I've had to work for it, and you know I don't own this house yet, but you know, I'm thankful to be living in this house. I grew up in units after my parents separated, and that's a very different life, especially as a young kid.
Yeah.
Sorry, the dogs are annoying. That'd be right. I knew something like that was going to happen.
No, that's fine.
For me it's a blessing. Like I don't take that for advantage because I know like when I was living in that unit for a lot of years I thought I'd never get to live in a house again and have a backyard. And, like I've got dogs. I've never had dogs before. Like just little things, mate. You got to.
So you see dogs as a luxury?
Yeah. Oh, for sure. Like we had everything growing up. Don't get me wrong. Like we've had ducks and lizards and birds and cats but I always wanted a dog and never got a dog. And 7 years ago I got my first dog and got another one during COVID, another COVID dog. She's about 18 months nearly. But like they're great. Like they just ground you, they chill you out, they're happy to see you when you get home, like all that stuff. Like
yeah, it's funny. I was talking about dogs today. I thought I was a dog guy and I like dogs and I had dogs as a kid, but as I'm getting older, I don't know if I've just got space in my life for a dog.
Yeah.
Maybe it'll change.
Yeah, look, they just, like, you can have a bad day and you can come home and they'll just wipe that away.
Really?
Oh, yeah. Like, even my kids don't give me the same recognition when I get home. You know, they're just so happy, like their bums are wagging, their tails are wagging. And it's also good too, like mentally it's good for you too. Like you got a dog, you got to go out, you got to walk it. You got to get out in the sunshine. Gotcha. And so it's so easy for us, especially like COVID, right? We got so used to lockdown.
You have to do it too.
You have to, the poor buggers. Like, yeah. Like, and, you know, we got so locked down and that was a blessing too because we're like, you're allowed to walk your dog or you're allowed to get groceries or you're allowed to go to the doctors. It's like, oh, great. Yeah. You know, and, you know, I don't know, they're just part of your family.
Yeah. No, I see it. They're so good. Good for your health in every way, physical and mental.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, I see it.
Yeah.
Yeah. A few people have said to me, oh, you got to get a dog, but I live in a unit at the moment, so yeah, maybe. Who knows?
Have you had a cat?
I had a cat as a kid. Her name was Candy, and it was just this really strange cat. Like, just never wanted to be friends. Yeah, it attacked me once, like randomly, just like jumped on me and clawed me.
Oh, really?
Like actually like stalked me. I was a kid. I got scarred by it. Like, stalked me, hid behind a tree, and then just jumped out at me and just like viciously tried to bite me and scratch me, and then just bailed.
They're like that.
It was just like fun for it.
Yeah, my cat's like that. I got
and
one.
After that, I was like, I'm not a cat guy.
Yeah,
so I had asthma as a kid too. I think the cat hair was bad for me.
Doesn't help. No, yeah, I get it. Well, I've got one now, and he's quite old now. He's about 14, but he's a bugger. I don't like him either. Like he's a shit. Like my kids can't pick him up. No, he's the same. He'll attack. Like you'll be patting him next minute. Like you'll get this massive claw or swipe or bite or bite. Like one time I was just changing and I was like, oh yeah, the cat's being cute. He's going to come up. He was rubbing his face against me, like my legs, and the next thing you know, like full took a bite on my calf. Like
right.
Like it's weird. It's a weird cat. But look, at the end of the day, like I had a cat growing up. It was really lovely. So it's just personal. Like they've all got temperaments, I suppose.
They do. Dogs. I think I read a meme about how dogs, they don't judge, they're not racist, they're not sexist. Like,
that's true.
Like they're just like this pure thing that like we've got all these other problems in the world and like dogs just kind of erase all that.
Yeah.
It's like,
well, you could be an axe murderer and they'll still love you.
If you're feeding them and walking them, they'll love you.
Yeah, you get cuddles.
And we need it. We need unconditional love, don't we?
Yeah.
Oh, God.
So no, I think it's good, like, because even with my kids, like, if they're having a bad day, it just regulates their emotions, cuddle with the dog, happy days, like.
Bring the family together?
Yeah, for sure. We go for walks down Maroubra Beach, like, you know, just walk
even
the
if they shit in the house?
Oh, I don't like that.
Do they do that?
Oh, God. Not anymore. We got through that.
Gotcha.
But yeah, I threw away some rugs, that's for sure. This is a newer one.
That's a nice one.
Yeah, thanks, mate. But yeah, and I don't like that. But I hate the toilet training part. But look, I'll go in the backyard and pick up the poops, but generally I'll try to get a scooper. But when I'm out, like, you've got to do it.
Yeah, you can't put nappies on a dog, can you?
Well, you can apparently.
Because that would make it so much easier.
It would. But they do it more when they're in heat, the girls, before they? Yeah, if you don't de-sex a girl dog earlier enough, they can spot apparently.
I didn't even know that.
Yeah, it's not nice. I haven't seen it. I've got the two dogs I've got, they're girls, but we de-sexed them well before that could become a thing.
Okay.
Yeah. But apparently that can happen.
That's interesting. Okay, well, there you go. Dog education. So anyway, what's next for you, reckon, Sal? Just keep living the good life, family life, and be content and happy. Soccer days coming to an end.
No, I'm still liking it. I actually got Players Player Award this year for my team, so I'm like riding it.
Have you ever been described as an overachiever? Yes.
No, well, I like that. I'll take that on, but I think someone said that when I did post it. I think Mick said that actually. He's like, Sal, you're good at everything you do, but sports is probably my more natural thing. But look, I work too. Like I feel like I'm in a good place with that, and I've worked hard at that, and I just keep wanting to try, keep on going, keep moving forward.
Do you reckon? Did Mick Mulhall get into the skate coaching?
Yeah, he got me.
How did that fall? How did that come about?
Yeah, so he got, I think, they Street Active, which was part of the Australian Institute of Sport. They teamed up, and apparently they approached Mick to write the curriculum for it, so the actual program. And then they said, you need another head coach. And I don't know if it was him or them. It was probably him because he's so progressive. It was like, we need a female coach. So he reached out to me and I'm like, God, mate, I'd love it because he's like a brother to me. Like this guy is so genuine, so down to earth, so intelligent, and just enjoy his company. Like we literally toured through all this coaching around Australia. We shared twin rooms, like the same room. Like, you know, if we were snoring and farting or whatever, like we're going to know. Like,
Gotcha.
So he approached me and I was like, you know, put through the course and I was like, yep, okay. So we were the first 2 coaches in Australia. So it was him and the male coach, myself as the head female. And then we had to coach the coaches. So we had to accredit other coaches because there had to be other coaches in each state to do this program. But Mick and I were the ones that, because like there was even people like the way better skaters than me. Like we had to teach like, you know, Skunk, for example, to do this thing.
Skunk do it?
He did for a bit, which yeah, it's like normally you wouldn't think so, but because he's so hardcore skate.
Yeah.
But yeah, no, he did it, and there was a bunch of other guys, Shane Wallace, and
fast forward though, I'm like, you know how massive skate coaching is now.
It's it's unbelievable. Like the Olympics, like people have got their own personal coach.
Yeah, but even like I was talking to Ty Colling on the phone just a couple of days ago and like he's got a skate coaching business, but I'm just like, for me, I struggle with it because I'm seeing people capitalising on this emerging market, especially for beginners, and they're really capitalising and making a fortune. And the people that are running these skate coaching clinics are not really skateboarders. Like they may be able to stand on a board, roll, maybe do an ollie.
That's what annoys me.
And this is where I'm struggling. I'm like, no, like I want, and I'm not against skate coaching, but I want all the OGs, like the ones you just mentioned. I want them to be making the money out of it.
Oh, for sure.
Not someone, and I think Ty was telling me a story about how he's seen a guy skate coaching someone on a skateboard in a bowl, and then 5 minutes later he had rollerblades on, and he was teaching him how to rollerblade in the bowl.
Yeah, I think I know who it is. Because he was part of this. No, I don't want to name names. I don't want to shame people, but there was one guy who was a roller inline, whatever they call him, and he ended up defecting to be a skate coach. And he's like, "You're not, mate. You're an inliner."
Yeah, and I think, and that's the thing. I mean, it's capitalism, and I understand it. But again, when you love something so much, like they're not going to be able to bring the essence of skateboarding to that person. They're going to be able to teach them some basics. Yes, fine, and it is necessary. But it's more than that. Like they need to learn the history, the culture. It embodies so much more.
Yeah, but
what do you think?
I see what you're saying. Like it was also like for me, like I had people I looked up to, and like we didn't really ask to be coached or even how to do the tricks, but sometimes in a subliminal manner they'd tell you something or a little tip, and you'd take it on. It was like essence of skateboarding. You're like, geez, he said just a little bit of it. I'm going to take that on. So I used to think that way too, and I would want the purists to do it because for me it's about, like you said, the history and looking up to the people, because a lot of what we did too, we were bonding with the kids. They knew who we were. They knew what was going on, like where we'd come from, our history, who we might ride for or whatever. Yeah. So there was that street cred. There was that credibility that you're a skateboarder and you're in it for the love of it. Like Mick and I and others did not start skateboarding to become coaches. It's just something that we fell into, and we were getting a bit of criticism from some people just saying, you know, the Olympics is crap, coaching is crap, all this stuff. And I wasn't even part of the Olympic stuff, but it was, like I said, it was inklings of it was going that way, and it's too commercial. You know, it's not a sport, it's a lifestyle. Totally get that it is. And like I said, I always say I'm a skateboarder. Like that's part of my DNA, my identity. That's what resonates with me. But it needs to be the skateboarders, or at least someone who has skated. Even if they can't physically skate anymore, they've done it. They've felt it.
It's refined.
Yeah.
They've seen everything.
Yeah.
Yeah.
We're not robots.
No.
Like teaching an ollie, there's a lot that goes into that. Like even though it's a simple trick.
Yeah.
But like it's all about technique and timing, and just those little tiny tips about, you know, jumping at the right time, popping the ball, rolling that front foot forward to then get the top leveled out with the, you know, the back's popping up, like, you know, getting it level and bending your knees, like, and then, you know, straightening your legs at the landing but not fully straightening them. Like there's just all little tiny tips that people are just like, okay, just whack your back foot down and jump. It's not that.
Yeah, it's true. And it can't, But, okay, I want to ask your opinion on something too. like with skate coaching, like no one taught you how to skate. You taught yourself effectively. And I guarantee, because you had the love and the drive and the passion, you were doing anything you could to learn. You were watching people closely. You're probably studying skate videos, magazines over and over, and maybe then going and asking questions. Do you think though, when someone has a skate coach, they're actually reducing a person's ability to go and find the answers themselves?
Yeah,
do you know what I mean?
sure.
Like that element of like self-discovery gets taken away a little bit because it's handed to them on a plate.
Yeah, for sure. Like even at my work, I'm like, don't come with a problem. Like you can come with a problem, but try to come with the answer
It's
to
a solution. Okay.
Like, or some thought through it. Like you said, we used to study like 411 or the skate mags or whatever. But like even going back to what you said, like initially you didn't even ask. Like you would get like verbally beaten down, and you're an idiot. Like if you asked, you'd get so dissed and so hassled. You just wouldn't like. Not just for me as a girl that wasn't popular initially, like anyone. You just didn't. And so, yeah, initially it kind of did go a little bit like against the grain of my fundamentals of being a true skateboarder. But at the same time, I kind of think if I had that, maybe I would have progressed more quickly. Maybe I could have been even a better skateboarder than what I am now. You know, if I had that mentoring. I remember going to comps like the World Cup comps that I told you about, and I had what I realise now is massive panic attack on one of them. And one of them I cut my finger badly in the warm-up. So I fell on the course, my board spun around, and the wheel nut cut my finger like two. Probably should have had stitches, like it fully blood. And there's blood everywhere, it's dripping everywhere, and I'm a bit bad with blood. I'm hopeless. So I'm like nearly fainting, out to go out the back, and some hot guy's like bandaging my finger up. I'm like, oh poor me. Anyhow, I'm like, okay. And then he bandaged me up, and I've got this massive, it was my pointer finger, I've got this massive Band-Aid, not a Band-Aid, a full bandage. And then I had to go and skate against like top American skateboarders. And as it was, I think I got 13th or something crap. I was just not myself. But I used to associate going to Melbourne with comps, and I would have butterflies in my stomach. I was so scared. And I kind of think about it now, like if I had a coach, you know, like the Sam Kerrs and that, who would have a physio coach and a sports coach and a mental strength coach and, you know, spiritual coach and a, you know, or whatever they've got everything.
Dietitian.
Like if I just had someone who just said, Sal, you've got this. You don't need to worry about it. Like just go out, have fun. Whatever they say, like, could have been even better.
Yeah, true.
All of us, not just me, all of us.
That's why skaters are so raw and rad. I don't want them to be athletes. I sound like Jeff Grosso. He used to talk about stuff.
Yeah. You don't want to wear neoprene?
No, but I don't want to be an old hater either. No, like it's embracing it for what it is. But
change, mate, change.
Change is real. Have we missed anything? Is there anything else we need to cover, Sal? I don't want to.
No, mate, I think we've gone through a fair bit.
You feel pretty at ease with everything? There's nothing you want to
pretty
get
good.
off your chest?
No, I just feel thankful of growing up late 80s into the 90s and 2000s in skateboarding. It's given me a lot. I've met a lot of people. I've done a lot of travel. I've met some of the skateboarders, the best skateboarders in the world, like some of the guys in the Bones Brigade and others. And, you know, God, some good people, Mike Vallely and Tony
He wears a
Hawk
helmet
and
now.
Cat.
Mike V only skates in a helmet.
Mate, he's smart. I mean, not to mention, didn't he used to do bloody MMA? Well, he used to do WWA.
Yeah, he was a wrestler.
Yeah.
He's an extreme man.
Like, there's some awesome people, like not just because they're skateboarders too, like, you know, I hung out with Cab at Big Day Out comps and like it's all about, again, the memories, like the
Cab's
tours.
a skateboarder, artist, musician,
He's everything.
profound in those things. And there's so many gons, like so many multi-talented humans.
Oh, most definitely. And that's what I was trying to say, like it's not just about the name of the person, it's what they bring to, like the conversation. I remember some conversations, like even that I had with Cab at Big Day Out, and you know, you give your time and give, you know, like people in the skateboarding industry are genuine people, and I'm very thankful to have been part of that and helped shape some of that, especially for female skateboarding, and being an advocate for that. And you know, I've heard a few other girl skaters say to me, you know, I remember you back in the day, and I remember that magazine article, and you meant so much. And I didn't really realise what I was doing. I didn't realise I was this person, this mentor, whatever you want to call it, that the girls were looking up to. It was what they needed to see. I didn't know that. I'm only realising more lately And they're like, this meant so much to me. And I'm like, wow. Like,
why-
I kind of wished I'd known as well, but I didn't. I just was doing my thing, wanted to do it, did it for the love of it. And now I'm hearing, there's chicks all around Australia just going, yeah. And some of them, it gave them the confidence to get into it.
So it's one of your legacies in this world. That's what I think you're leaving. You've created somewhat of a legacy. And maybe numerous legacies, especially as a parent, sports person, but it's one of them.
I hope so. I'll be proud to hope that I'm helped someone have the confidence to get into it when they may not have otherwise,
Oh, Sal.
So that'd be good.
So good. I feel like that's a good way to end.
Yeah, cool. Thanks, mate. Thanks for your time.
Thank
really
you.
enjoyed it.
I was Mrs. Sally Felice.
Yeah.
Affleck. Let's go.
Thanks, mate.